To write forcefully and in detail about social studies topics, students need interactive experiences about which to write. What's great about the Writing for Understanding strategy is that it taps into students' multiple abilities so that all learners, not just those with strong linguistic skills, have something really memorable to write about. Pre-writing activities are essential if students are to write effectively using concrete details. You'll see how this plays out in a Writing for Understanding activity from History Alive, the United States Through Industrialism, Chapter 20, African Americans in the mid-1800s. So class, in this activity, you're going to match quotations and placards describing how African Americans faced slavery in the mid-1800s. And eventually what you're going to do is you're going to write a journal as if you were an enslaved American, using information from the primary sources, from the images, and from information in your book. Okay? So that's where we're headed.
Step 1. Get a quotation. In your pair, read the quotation aloud. Discuss what the quotation reveals about how African Americans faced slavery. Step 2. Then match your quotation to one of the placards.
Ask yourself, what is the subject of this quotation? Then find the section of reading notes that addresses this topic. Complete the reading notes.
One of the cruelest things I ever saw done to a slave was done by my master.
He wanted to punish one of the slaves who had done something that he didn't like. The slave was kind of a stubborn one.
He took that slave and hitched him to a plow and plowed him just like a horse. He beat him and jerked him about until he got all bloody and sore, but the old master kept right on day after day.
My father was sold away from us when I was small.
That was a sad time for us.
Father wouldn't sell us the mothers away from their children, so we lived on without fear of being sold.
My pa sure did hate to leave us.
He missed us and we longed for him.
He would often slip back to our cottage at night.
We would gather around him and curl up in his lap, and he tickled us for a long time.
But he gave us these pleasures at a painful risk.
Are you sure? I'm not sure about
Maybe
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think it's probably this one.
the working conditions of slaves, because it says they work from 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock.
Yeah, maybe it's that one.
Okay. So it's probably that one. For the first one, it matches with quotation 4, because it's like showing the father being taken away and the family being sad because it's getting taken away, like they're talking about in the quotation.
Yeah, and how the father never came back.
The mother would have felt really sad because her husband was being taken away.
So I think we should probably draw a whip, because that's how they controlled him.
He was like being plowed by his master, so maybe might want to draw a plow or something.
Okay, everybody, now you're going to create that journal that we discussed at the very beginning of the lesson, and it should be written from the perspective as if you were an enslaved African American, okay? So you're no longer a student here in class. You are going back in time to experience, to take on that role. So this is how it's going to work. You're going to take turns reading your journal to each other. I want you to listen for the bulleted items to see if they have the required pieces in that page of their journal.
Hayes Plantation, August 3rd, 1848. Journal. They beat a slave to death today, and I sure am glad it wasn't me. My master tied a slave to a pole and made everyone watch as they beat him to death. The closest thing I've ever done to rebellion was refusing to work one day. Him and his overseers are always watching for the smallest mistakes. At Hayes Plantation, you learn to always listen to the master. And then I drew an illustration.
Well, you had all of them, so you had a good date, location. You described like your act of rebellion when like you didn't work, and then you had a good illustration.
Dear Journal, me and my fellow slaves maintain a strong sense of our community by supporting our slave church. And my favorite leisure activity is a quilting bee, which is a time when I gather with many other slave women and girls to express myself using a cloth and a needle. And this is a picture of me making a quilt.
So you got a description of your favorite leisure activity and a description of the church meeting and the illustration. You have everything in there.
Okay.
To learn how to bring Writing for Understanding to your classroom, visit